Hi, welcome to day 20. Our journey is starting to come to an end. So today I'm wearing I'm a Happy Rat t-shirt. This was given to me by a client because if you remember at the very beginning, I talk about the Happy Rat study and how when they looked at addiction, when they got a rat hooked on, I think the first drug was heroin, and then they did cocaine, and it would turn down, it was in a little cage, and they'd drop in a female. If it was a male rat, it would ignore it. Food, it would ignore it. It would just keep doing the drugs over and over again. And that kind of started the whole war on drugs, zero tolerance, drugs are bad, et cetera, et cetera. And they duplicated it with alcohol and a few other things. But what they found was when they redid the study, rather than just drop in food and the mate and things like that into this unhappy cage, if they took the rat out of that cage and put it in a happy rat cage, it got better. It would refuse the drugs and alcohol like 90-something% of the time. And this went along, correlated with the fact that at the end of the Vietnam War, they were gearing up for this huge onslaught of veterans coming back with drug and alcohol problems, because in country, a lot of the soldiers were using heroin, marijuana, hashish, drinking heavily, and clinically, they fit the profile of what we'd call substance dependence, if definitely substance abuse, if not substance dependence. And yet, when the soldiers came back after a reacclimation period, most of them went back to normal living. So again, I call that the Happy Rat study, that if you take people out of an unhappy environment, put them in a happy environment, they're going to get better. That's why we also have the phenomenon of when people leave their home and go away to treatment, they do fine while they're in treatment. Let's say it's a long-term treatment where they go through 28 days of treatment and then they stay for like 90 days to a halfway house, they do fine, but then they go home, they don't do well because they're going back into that old cage, which always presents the problem. What if you're there now, but what if you change how you feel about the environment while you're in the environment? Then you can become a happy rat and not go back to the old drugs or alcohol. That is our key, how to be a happy rat. And so when you look at that, one of the ways to do it is what we're talking about today. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning, which was human needs. How do we balance these human needs that we all have? Because only when they're in balance can you be happy, can you live a more fulfilled life. And always, there's a process that goes on. But when we look at this, the first one that really talked about human needs was Maslow. And he talked about we have these different needs. You have your physiological needs, food, air, water, things like that. And if you get those secure, then you move up to safety. You want to feel safe, your environment. You want to be as safe as you can. If you feel mostly safe and your physiological needs are met, then you want to have the love and belonging. And we all want this. Family, friends, society, we want this loving, nurturing environment. Fine. And then the next level up is esteem. When we have these lower levels met, then we can work on our self-esteem, our self-respect, things like that. So as all these happen, if you get all those met, then you can move up into self-actualization and you become everything that you want to be. Well, Maslow thought that everyone was constantly working up to the higher levels of these human needs. And what we found in retrospect is no, some people are happy to stay at whatever level they're in. They never want to leave the safety level. They never want to leave maybe even the basic level of physiological having their needs met. Everyone is different. But once you understand this, it gives you some insight. And then we looked at, Tony Robbins looked at a little different. He took a few different things. He talked about certainty and uncertainty, love and connection, growth and contribution, these kind of things. And then we had a different viewpoint. And it really kind of goes with what we call the CIA. And it doesn't stand for what we normally say in America. It stands for control, identity, and arousal. Whenever these cues hit us, and we're very familiar by now in this program with the stimulus response, that when something sets off our need for control or it challenges our sense of identity or it arouses us in some way, we may go into a different action that maybe we don't want. And so we want to begin to become aware of this, and then we can use this. And our sense of control tells us we're safe. We want to bend the environment to our needs. I live here in Florida, and if we couldn't bend the environment to our needs, I don't think most people would live here all year round. It gets rather hot in the summer, but we have air conditioning. We can control our environment to a great deal. And our sense of identity tells us who we are, especially relative to other people. We always want our sense of identity, whatever it happens to be, as a mother, as a father, as an employer, as an employee, as a soldier, sailor, airman, whatever it is, we develop a sense of identity. You remember on day 8, we talked about reinventing ourselves, and we went into the whole process of reinventing your identity. And it's one of the keys to long-term recovery. And lastly, our sense of arousal tells us what we're learning, we're improving, we're evolving. We always want to grow. It also helps us compete because, remember, we're not that far removed from running across the fields just trying to survive. So we're always competing for food, for shelter, for mates, for things like this. But as we evolve higher, we move out of the competitive mindset into the cooperative or the creative mindset. But if people get stuck at the competitive mindset, they're always wanting more, whatever it happens to be. And when we move up, you get into a different thing. This relates to Maslow in one way. And then, but what we want to do is really go back to the Tony Robbins, the way he looks at it. I think it comes from the work of Epstein. And we're always balancing certainty and uncertainty. And this is where we get stuck. We could say it's like control, identity, and this. But when you're stuck here, if everything has to be certain, you want to know where everyone is. You want to know where situations are. You try to control absolutely everything. Taken to the extent, you might want to begin to micromanage everything, which will drive everyone else around you crazy. And so if you have a sense of certainty, that's good. But can you handle uncertainty? Can you handle not knowing what's going on? So we're always balancing these two. But for many of us, if we get our lives totally certain, we get bored. And we long for a little bit of uncertainty. Some of us might find it in a hobby. Some of us might find it in other things. But we're always balancing certainty and uncertainty. And so we want to begin to be able to balance those, to be comfortable with a little bit of uncertainty, because there's certain things you can't control. Other people, the government, all these things, it's beyond our control. So we're always balancing these two. And again, if you're not in balance, then it'll cause you to stress out. And the more stress you get, going back to our earlier training, then you're much more likely to go backwards into the old behavior that you no longer want. So we want to balance certainty and uncertainty, because uncertainty can be exciting. I always use the analogy, when you're falling in love, one of the things that happens is you don't know the other person. It's uncertain. It's kind of fun. You don't know what's going to happen. And then as your relationship gets mature, it can become somewhat boring. And you always hear people married many years, they say, well, that's one of the drawbacks. I mean, you feel very comfortable, but there's no excitement, there's no spark. So we're always balancing these two. Can you bring in this kind of aspect to what we're doing? So, and that relates to the CIA level of arousal. We want to be aroused, we want to be excited, we want to do different things. And so this is where you also see where people get into recovery and they're very happy, they're going to work, they're fulfilling their family obligations, they're not drinking or drugging, and the cycle keeps repeating. But after a while, they get bored because everything becomes so certain. I get up at 6:15, I go to bed at 10:15, and the cycle keeps repeating. There's no excitement, there's no uncertainty, there's no this. And many people have that fear when they're first recovering of not knowing how to have fun. So we want to begin to learn how to have fun, and that's like, because you're not sure what's going to happen. So we want to balance those two. And then we get into significance. We all want to be significant. We want to be significant, that our lives have purpose and meaning. Many of us do it with our family, having kids, raising our kids to be the best we can. We want other people to kind of look up to us. We can do it in careers. We can do it in many different ways. And this goes back to the CI level of identity and Maslow's level of esteem and self-actualization. So we want to be significant. But if you get so caught up in significance, you can lose the next or the cross level of connection. And we all want to truly connect with other people. But if you're so caught up in significance, let's say in your career, you're never home, you're constantly doing this, this, and this, you're moving this way, you lose the connection maybe with your spouse, maybe with your children, maybe with society, because you become so fixated on this. Or could be the opposite. If you get so caught up in connection, you're so connected with people, we would call that codependency taken to the extreme, that you really have no significance. So what happens if you lose that connection? If you put all your focus on your connection, let's say with your children, we see this a lot here in Florida, where people spend their whole adult lives raising their children, which is good, but that's how they got everything, was in their children. It's how they felt significant. They were the best dad, the best mom, And now the kids are gone. They're grown. They have their own lives. They don't have the same connection, and they have no other significance. So you need to find things that you feel significant about. So we're always balancing significance and connection. And we want to begin to balance those. And when you begin to balance the certainty and uncertainty and the connection and the significance, then you can become a happy rat. You can live life on life's terms and enjoy it. And then if you get those four, then you can move up to the next two levels, which is growth. We all want to grow. We want to fulfill all those other needs. We want to seek areas where we can expand our consciousness, our awareness, our intelligence. And maybe it's going to school. Maybe it's studying something on the side. One of the things that's great when you get some passion, you begin to learn something, you grow. It makes you flourish as you learn more. One of my friends started a new hobby. A couple of years ago, he knew nothing about it. His son took him to, it was shooting. He went shooting with his son, found he kind of liked it. And now, 2-3 years later, he can tell you all about different types of guns. He can tell you how they break down, what kinds you want. It gave him a way to grow. And for him, it sparked his passion, gave him something to do. We all want to do this. And makes him a little bit significant, by the way, because now he's becoming the go-to guy. If you want to get a gun, a weapon, he's the guy to talk to and where he's at, because everybody, he knows. So this is kind of cool. So if you grow, it can also make you feel significant. So we want to always balance this. And this is the CI level need of arousal, or the Maslow's level of self-actualization. We want to grow. And there's lots of ways to grow physically. People get into bodybuilding. One of my friends is an Ironman, triathlons. Whatever it is, it helps you grow. It gives you passion, gives you purpose, gives you meaning. But that's balanced with contribution. If you're off constantly on this self-growth phase, you don't really contribute maybe to society or your family. It'd be great to go to an ashram and study meditation for a year, but if you've got responsibilities at home, you're not going to contribute that way. So we're always balancing these two. And sometimes when they're in balance, your growth can contribute. You learn more. You bring things to the table that can help other people by your contributions, by your self-growth. So we're always balancing these needs, these levels of growth. And once we get this, then we can truly go. Because again, our goal of the Live Free training isn't just getting you clean and sober. That's the baseline. We want you to begin to truly live free, to take control of your mind, to begin to design a life worth living. I always say that this type of information didn't just save my life, it gave me a life worth living. And this is what we want for you. And so as we're doing this, this is the important part. So now we're going to watch a video on human needs.
So what shaped Lance, what shapes you? Two invisible forces, very quickly. One, state. We all have had times. Have you had a time you did something and after you did it, you thought to yourself, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. That was so stupid. Who's been there? Say aye. Have you ever done something after you do it, you go, that was me. Right? It wasn't your ability, it was your state. Your model of the world is what shapes you long term. Your model of the world is the filter. That's what's shaping us. That's what makes people make decisions. When we want to influence somebody, we got to know what already influences them. And it's made up of three parts, I believe. First, what's your target? What are you after? Which I believe it's not your desires. You can get your desires to goals. How many of you got a goal, desire, and thought, is this all there is? How many have been there? Say aye. So it's needs we have. I believe there are 6 human needs. Second, Once you know what the target that's driving you is, and you uncover it for the truth, you don't form it, you uncover it. Then you find out what's your map. What's the belief systems that are telling you how to get those needs? Some people think the way to get those needs is destroy the world. Some people is to build something, create something, love someone. And then there's the fuel you pick. So very quickly, 6 needs, let me tell you what they are. First one, certainty. Now these are not goals or desires, these are universal. Everyone needs certainty that they can avoid pain, at least be comfortable. Now how do you get it? Control everybody, develop a skill, give up, smoke a cigarette. And if you got totally certain, ironically, even though we all need that, like if you're not certain about your health or your children or money, you don't think about much more. You're not sure the ceiling's gonna hold up, you're gonna listen to any speaker. But while we go for certainty differently, if we get total certainty, we get what? What do you feel if you're certain? You know what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, what would you feel? Bored out of your mind. So God, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need, which is uncertainty. We need variety. We need surprise. How many of you here love surprises? Say aye. Bullshit. You like the surprises you want. The ones you don't want, you call problems, but you need them. So variety is important. Have you ever rented a video or a film that you've already seen? Who's done this? Get a fucking life. Right? Why are you doing it? You're certain it's good because you read it before, saw it before, but you're hoping it's been long enough you've forgotten enough there's variety. Third human need, critical, significance. We all need to feel important, special, unique. You can get it by making more money. You can do it by being more spiritual. You can do it by getting yourself in a situation where you put more tattoos and earrings in places humans don't want to know. Whatever it takes. The fastest way to do this, if you have no background, no culture, no belief in resources or resourcefulness, is violence. If I put a gun to your head and I live in the hood, instantly I'm significant. 0 to 10, how high? 10. How certain am I you're going to respond to me? 10. How much uncertainty? Who knows what's going to happen next? Kind of exciting, like climbing up into a cave and doing that stuff all the way down there. Total variety and uncertainty. And it's significant, isn't it? So you're willing to risk your life for it. So that's why violence has always been around and will be around unless we have a consciousness change as a species. Now you can get significance a million ways, but to be significant, you got to be unique and different. Here's what we really need. Connection and love, fourth need. We all want it. Most people settle for connection because love's too scary. Don't want to get hurt. Who here has ever been hurt in an intimate relationship? Say aye. If you don't raise your hand, you'll have had other shit too, come on. And you're gonna get hurt again. Aren't you glad you came to this positive visit? But here's what's true, we need it. We can do it through intimacy, through friendship, through prayer, through walking in nature. If nothing else works for you, get a dog. Don't get a cat, get a dog, because if you leave for 2 minutes, it's like you've been gone for 6 months when you show back up again 5 minutes later, right? Now these first 4 needs, every human finds a way to meet. Even if you lie to yourself, even if you have split personalities. But the last 2 needs, the first 4 needs are called the needs of the personality, is what I call it. The last 2 are the needs of the spirit. And this is where fulfillment comes. You won't get fulfillment from the first 4. You'll figure a way, smoke, drink, do whatever, meet the first 4. But the last 2, number 5, you must grow. We all know the answer here. If you don't grow, you what? If a relationship's not growing, if a business is not growing, if you're not growing, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many friends you have, how many people love you, you feel like hell. And the reason we grow, I believe, is so we have something to give of value. Because the 6th need is to contribute beyond ourselves. Because we all know, corny as it sounds, the secret of living is giving. We all know life's not about me, it's about we. This culture knows that, this room knows that. And it's exciting. When you see Nicholas up here talking about his $100 computer, the most passionate, exciting thing is here's a genius, but he's got a calling now. You can feel the difference in him, and it's beautiful. And that calling can touch other people. In my own life, my life was touched because when I was 11 years old, Thanksgiving, no money, no food, and we're not gonna starve, but my father was totally messed up. My mom was letting him know how bad he messed up. And somebody came to the door and delivered food. My father made 3 decisions. I know what they were briefly. His focus was, this is charity. What does it mean? I'm worthless. What do I gotta do? Leave my family, which he did. At the time, one of the most painful experiences of life. My 3 decisions gave me a different path. I said, focus on, there's food, what a concept, you know? Second, but this is what changed my life. This is what shaped me as a human being. Somebody's gift, I don't even know who it is. I thought, my father always said, no one gives a shit. And all of a sudden, somebody I don't know, they're not asking for it, this is giving our family food, looking out for us. It made me believe this. What does it mean? That strangers care. And what that made me decide is if strangers care about me and my family, I care about them. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do something to make a difference. So when I was 17, I went out one day on Thanksgiving, it was my target for years, have enough money to feed 2 families. Most fun thing I ever did in my life, most moving. Then next year I did 4, and I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. Next year, 8. I wasn't doing it for brownie points, but after 8, I thought, shit, I could use some help. So sure enough, I went out, and what did I do? I got my friends involved, and I grew companies, and then I got 11 companies, and I built the foundation. Now, 18 years later, I'm proud to tell you, last year we fed 2 million people in 35 countries through our foundation, all during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, in all the different countries around the world. It's been fantastic. Thank you. So I don't tell you that to brag. I tell you because I'm proud of human beings because they get excited to contribute once they've had the chance to experience it, not talk about it. So finally, I'm about out of time, the target that shapes you, here's what's different about people. We have the same needs, but are you a certainty freak? Is that what you value most, or uncertainty? This man here couldn't be a certainty freak if he climbed through those caves. Are you driven by significance or love? We all need all six, but whatever your lead system is tilts you in a different direction. And as you move in a direction, you have a destination or destiny.
So really this goes down to the cross purposes. We want to find a balance. And everyone will be balanced in different ways. When we look at, let's say, certainty and variety, or certainty and uncertainty, then where do you feel comfortable? Do you want more certainty? Do you want more things to be certain? Or are you more comfortable with uncertainty, just so there's a little bit of certainty on the side? Whatever it happens to be. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably pretty comfortable with uncertainty. It's the nature of business, nature of owning a business. But if you're totally locked into certainty, you might want to stay in your career for 30 years, never change jobs, stay in the military, whatever it happens to be. And it's fine. Each of these is fine. You just know where your comfort level is. And then realize that you can expand it. And there's something great about knowledge. Once we learn this, you go, whoa, no one ever showed me this. And then you see where your areas of growth can be. Maybe I need to be a little bit more comfortable with uncertainty. Or maybe it's okay to go after some certainty. So we're always balancing these different levels. And then we get into significance and connection. Maybe we need to connect more with other people. Maybe we want to chase significance. Maybe we want to do different things. Whatever it is fine, but you need to know where you are, because many people get too caught up in one over the other. And you can change it once you become aware of it. Once you become aware of it, you can really grow. So you're always balancing contributing and growth also. So when we look at significance, connection, then we look at our growth and our contribution. Where are you at? Where do you want to do? And again, until you get the first four levels, certainty and uncertainty, significance and connection, you really don't worry about growth or contribution. But once we get to this level, how can you contribute? My friend, one of my friends, the one I've talked about, he's very active in the 12-step world. And he volunteers and he does other things. It gives him a little bit of significance, and it's a way for him to contribute. And he says it helps him grow because he's always reading about things he can talk about when he's doing this kind of stuff, and it helps him grow. So once we do all these things, you become well-rounded. Have you ever heard the term when someone says, he's a well-rounded individual? Well, to me, it means they're balancing these human needs. Each one's in balance at the time. Not that they might not get out of kilter a little bit, but overall, it becomes much more balanced. And lastly, when you look at this, every ending is a start, and every start is an ending. When you started your recovery program, you're ending the addiction cycle. So we're always, every start is an ending, and every ending is a start. Because you ended this, you had to start that. As they say in some of the things, when a door is closed, another's open. So why not look at it that way? So what we want to do is begin to develop this. So the most important thing right now in your journal later today is you're going to write down what's your after training program. You've gone through the training program, we got one more day, but what's your after training program? They're always the next level. If you ever went to a personal trainer, they'll take you to a certain level, and then they'll give you things you can take it to the next level and the next level. You're never done. So what's your after training program? What are you going to do next? What's your focus? What's your purpose? What's your passion? I mean, we have the Continue the Momentum program. We have alumni meetings. Other things are going on, but what are you going to do to continue to grow and nourish and flourish? Nourish and flourish is our goal. Nourish your soul, your spirit, and then flourish in every aspect. So what we want to do is focus. What we want to do is focus and have some fun with this. So always remember, today is the day, this is the moment, now is the time. So what I want you to do now is just, again, think about all your needs. Where do you get out of, I call it kilter, where does it get out of balance for you? Because once you begin to balance these, then you see where it was. And then you don't want to look back 20 years from now and say, on your deathbed, I doubt very many people say, I wish I would have worked that extra week instead of taking that vacation. So you want to do it now. In fact, one of the things you can do is look back on your life in a different way. So if you're ever challenged with something like, should I do this or should I do this? What if you imagine you're 30 years in the future looking back on today? If you do this, how will it make you feel? But if you don't do this, how will it make you feel? I remember talking to a friend of mine. I was in martial arts. I've been training for a long time. He goes, I should really start training. I said, well, yeah, you should. It would be fun. You'd learn a lot. He goes, but how long does it take to get a black belt? I said, well, it's not just about getting a black belt. He was a rather significantly driven guy. He was already picturing his black belt. He hadn't even started yet. And I'm like, well, but it's about growth and contribution and this. He goes, but I said, usually 3 to 5 years in this style. And he goes, that means I'd be like 45 when I got my black belt. I said, you're right. Will you be 45 without your black belt? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, imagine 5 years from now, you're looking back on today. You could have started taking karate, but you didn't. You're still 45, but now you don't have a black belt. It's like people say, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go to college. And someday they look back and go, I should have went to college. So sometimes if you jump into the future and look back on today, you go, yes, I'm going to do that. Or you go, yeah, well, it's not that important. It's not that important. So wherever you are is good. And this is like one of those litmus tests that you can begin to do. So now we're going to do our little relaxation. But again, think about these factors. And a little tip, sometimes it's hard to do it on ourselves. Look at people close to you and begin to figure out what's driving them. Are they certainty freak or are they an uncertainty freak? Are they significance driven or connection driven? Are they going after growth or contribution? And then you find that the people that most people admire have a balance. They got a little bit of everything going on because that makes you, again, well-rounded. So now let's do our relaxation. So take a nice deep breath and close your eyes.